Hello everyone, this is your daily dose of support items. Support items come in all shapes and sizes. Some do damage, some give damage, and some just keep you alive. Enchanters already seem to have strong laning phases, so you're typically going to win early games anyways. Building the right items is what's going to allow you to take that mid game to the next level. When I'm playing with a hyper carry like Jinx or Vayne, I'm usually thinking about buying an item that will give them more stats that will allow them to solo carry. But some of the items that are geared towards this playstyle often fall short. Ardan Sensor seems to be the worst offender in this group. It gives 20 magic damage on hit plus 25% attack speed, which seems good on paper, but whenever you take a look at the stats after you've used it in like 1 or 2 team fights, the numbers are always really low. In a perfect world, you're using it on an AD jungler that auto attacks a lot, maybe someone whose abilities have on hit effects, but ultimately I feel like this one's like a 3 out of 10 for me, and it typically doesn't do what you want it to. Look at this piece of shit. Pathetic. Now, the other stat buff support item is Staff of Flowing Water. It gives 10% movement speed whenever you heal or shield somebody, and it also gives 30 AP to you and the person you casted it on. I guess in a perfect world, you're casting this on someone like a Lilia that wants to use that AP but also wants the movement speed to move around team fights. But just in general, when you're supporting AD carries, it can be pretty useful. I can get the Graves and the Kai'Sa out of this fight pretty well, and it just helps us kite. Now, I don't consider either one of these items difference makers, but I do feel like this movement speed on this item is probably something I was undervaluing, and I probably will start building it a little bit more as maybe a third or fourth item. I give it a 5.5 out of 10. Imperial Mandate is not like traditional support items. It puts a mark on enemies when you hit them with spells, and it does damage based on their current health and gives whoever pops that mark movement speed. Now, this doesn't give you any defensive capabilities, but it does allow you to do a lot more damage up front, and it aids in chasing people in team fights. The movement speed from this item is a little bit more intuitive than Staff of Flowing Water, because it gives 25% movement speed, and your allies are typically going to be hitting the characters that you're hitting, since you're usually casting spells on frontline, and so it's a little easier to use. But to be honest, if I'm ever buying this item, it's strictly for the damage. The movement speed isn't as good as Shirelia's Reverie, and that item is a lot easier to use, and it's way more impactful. I don't think that there's actually a correct build here, but I'm also bad, so I wouldn't know. But a good rule of thumb to use is whatever's going to keep you alive is better than whatever's going to do damage. Because if your characters die, they can't do damage. And as long as you stay above the enemy's kill threshold, you're going to be able to win a fight eventually. When trying to calculate the enemy's damage, if you can dodge a lot of their stuff, like skill shots, you probably want to build movement speed. But if the enemy's damage is like Jhin Force Shot or Karthasar and it's more inevitable, you're probably going to want to prioritize heals and shielding. Another support item that needs to be looked at is Echoes of Helia. It does damage based off of the amount of spells you hit on someone whenever your allies are near you, but I don't ever build this, so I'm going to go do some research. I'll be right back.